Hey friends, welcome back to another episode of Guitar Talk with Todd here, Todd Beebe Music. Thank you all so much for checking in and joining me today. We have another awesome guitar review. This is a brand new Gibson Theodore model. These are very cool models. I've been wanting to get one of these on the show for a while now, so special thanks to private owner that brought this in and let us do a review for you today. If you're not familiar with these guitars, let's do a quick little history here. In 1957, Gibson President Ted McCarty made a drawing of this. I'm going to see if I can throw a picture of that up. And it was just an idea he had, a very kind of loose thing. It had a stop bar tailpiece, P90 pickups, and the body was actually made out of alder, I believe. The drawing got filed away and nothing ever became of it. It was supposed to be in that run of the classic 58 models that came out under Ted McCarty's presidency there at Gibson. Ted was president from 1950 to 1966. And a lot of great things during that time came out. The golden era of Gibson, obviously the Les Paul, the ES335, the Gibson Firebird, the Gibson Explorer, the Gibson Flying V, and then things like the Modern, which we've talked about on the show many times. I have tons of videos on here. Scroll through the playlists, go under Gibson Guitars. We have a ton of them. But anyway, this was supposed to be in that 58 run with the Flying V, the Explorer, and all those other ones that came out during that time, and it just never happened. And not 100% sure if I have the story right, so don't quote me on it, but I believe it was someone at Gibson in 2021 or something like that. Fast forward 65 years almost since Ted made this drawing, and they found the blueprint actually fell out, the drawing Ted McCarty had made of, I believe the employee was looking at like lap steel blueprints and stuff of Gibson, just stuff from the past at the time, and a drawing of this fell out. And I believe, again, don't quote me, but believe reading, he said he thought he was being pranked at the time because, you know, really something from 1957 that Ted McCarty drew and we never knew about it, but it was the real deal. So in 2022, Gibson Custom Shop put out a limited run of these. I know there was like 318 or something like that they put out. They were to the Ted McCarty specs, stop bar tailpiece, P90 pickups, 4 controls, 2 volume, 2 tone, and those are just beautiful, beautiful guitars. This is a newer model that Gibson USA puts out that they started doing, and it's different from the custom shop runs or different from Ted McCarty's original drawing in the fact that it has humbucking pickups, in this case a 57 Classic and a 57 Classic Plus in the bridge, which is a little bit hotter. Mahogany body. We only have 2 controls, 1 volume, 1 tone, 3-way toggle. So a lot of stuff. The body shape is exactly the same. This predates the Gibson SG, obviously, or what was originally the Gibson Les Paul. Again, scroll through our videos. We've got couple of original Gibson Les Paul Juniors that came to be known as SGs with that body shape, but check those out. Anyways, if this was drawn in 57, which it was by Ted McCarty, this would have been Gibson's first double cutaway, but again, it never came to be. The Les Paul Jr. took over with that. Again, we have a 59 Les Paul Jr. as well, so check those out in the list below. But anyway, this never came to be until 2022 when Gibson Custom put out that limited run, and then as they'll do a lot of times, if that limited run is successful and people are saying, man, I wish I could have got one, then they put out the more affordable Gibson USA line, which is still just awesome stuff. And this is a great guitar. We've been playing this all week, and I really love this. The 57 Classics sound great in these. Obviously, on McCarty's original drawing, it was P90s, which you know we're huge fans of on this show. A lot of cool things on this. It has the Gibson Explorer style headstock, which again also came out in 58, the Explorer. So 6 in a row on the tuners here with the Gibson mother of pearl logo there at the top. Bell-shaped truss rod cover, acrylic trapezoid inlays on a rosewood fingerboard, all mahogany body on this, and just a really cool looking guitar. I mean, there's just nothing you can't love about how this looks. This is Antique Natural is what this is called. It also is available right now. This is being recorded in 2025. You can get these on sites like Sweetwater and whatnot. The Antique Natural, you can get the Vintage Cherry, which is also available. And also this comes in ebony, which is of course just black, so it's 3 colors. But Gibson Custom has done some great one-off runs of these too, so go down the rabbit hole and just search the Gibson Theodore guitar and you'll see some great examples of these. As far as the name, obviously Theodore, a reference to Ted McCarty, and from what I understand, this guitar never had a name, just a drawing. And I think it was Cesar, the current president as of 2025 of Gibson Guitar, who suggested the Theodore, and they just ran with that. And these are just great. I've been having a blast playing this for a few days now, and it's a great sounding guitar. You got the slim tapered neck, which just has a great feel to it. Just an awesome piece. So let's take this for a test drive a little bit later on, like we always do. We're also going to check this out in the case, like we always do. As a matter of fact, let's do that now and get some closer looks at this. Check it out. Here we go. Okay, so here is the case for the 2024 Gibson Theodore. We love these brown cases that Gibson's currently using. I wish they would put the USA back on there. I always loved that. I guess that's the only complaint I have about these, but Gibson, you got that on there, and the classic brown case that everyone knows and loves. This reminds me of the 90s cases, which you know we love on this channel. So great latches on here. I just love the current cases they're using. And opening it up here, we've got the reddish pinkish plush interior here, which always goes well with this too. So just great stuff. Okay, so let's get right in here and check out some stuff on this Theodore model. So we've got the all mahogany body, like we were saying earlier. 2 humbucking pickups. They have the Gibson 57 Classic in the neck and the 57 Classic Plus in the bridge, which is a little bit hotter. Again, these were not on the original Ted McCarty drawing. Had P90s on there, but on the USA model, they're going with the humbuckers, and that's just a great alteration of that, and I think they work very well. But we're huge P90 people on this show. Everyone knows that, but humbuckers are great as well, and these work really well in this guitar. ABR1 two-pneumatic bridge there, stop bar, tailpiece, output jack here on the front. There's one complaint, and not really a complaint, but just an issue to point out. It's this, which we've talked about on this show before. Whenever you have 2 pickups like this, I always love to have the separate volume, especially. And if I can get a separate tone, that's great too. But even if we just had the 3, and we had a separate volume for each pickup, I just love that, because you can do a lot more with the 3-way toggle and getting different volume levels out of each pickup. When you only have 1 volume, you're very limited. It's kind of like working with a Junior or something like that, so you just kind of make it work, but that would be my only thing. Interestingly enough, on the original Ted McCarty drawing, there were the 4 controls, and on the Custom Shop models that they put out in 2022, they also had the 4 controls. So really interesting there that they decided to just go with the 2 for the USA model. I'd love to see in the future some that come out with the 4. But anyways, no big deal. Like you said, that's just a minor issue. Certainly not a complaint by any means. 3-way toggle here, pick guard. And if there's one other issue with these that I would say, it's the access to the upper frets. Now, it's interesting because if you do a search for Gibson Theodore, one of the main videos that come up, one of the selling points of this guitar, they talk about the unparalleled access to the upper frets. Chime in below, you guys. Let me know what you think about this, if you've played one of these. I find it a little bit limiting up here when I'm reaching in, and it's because of this area right here. It has nothing to do with the cutaways coming out. It's this chunk of wood right here that's right next to the neck. That's just enough where it's keeping my hand from getting way up here. So I've actually found I have better access on my Les Pauls, or certainly an SG, because with the devil horns on the SG, it kind of scoops in more, and this is more rounded right here coming out as opposed to where this chunk of wood is. But kudos to Gibson, because they did stay true to Ted McCarty's drawing. So again, I'm not complaining. I'm just pointing that out. I don't think you have as great of accessibility as a lot of people have talked about with these guitars, but that's just me. Again, chime in. I love to hear from everyone. What are your experiences with that? Truth be told, how often are you really playing notes this high up, screaming high? I mean, I do, and if I have to maneuver my hand to get up there and make it work, fine, but I don't use them constantly enough that it's a problem at all. So again, not complaining, I'm just pointing that out, that it is a little bit more limited, in my opinion, than the Les Paul, the SG, or even like a 335. Firebird, any of those guitars. This is probably the most limiting, and I've played all those other models. I've found this one not as accessible because of that, but chime in, let me know what you think. Again, no big deal. Rosewood fingerboard here with the acrylic trapezoid inlays going up the neck, and then up here we have the awesome Explorer style headstock here on this, which is very unique with the 6-in-a-row tuners. Usually you always think of Gibson most of the time as having the 3 per side, but again, Explorer as this headstock, and then of course we have like a Firebird and whatnot. So it is something that Gibson has dabbled in over the years, and it's not a new thing at all. And that is certainly the headstock that McCarty had envisioned on his original drawing. So they kept that true to form. I also want to point out Gibson uses the Graphtec nuts on these, which are just fantastic. No binding, no issues at all with tuning. Just that works out really, really well for these. Okay, let's flip this over, take a look at the back. Okay, so we have the mini Grover tuners on there, which again just work out fantastic. 6-in-a-row, made in USA stamp on the back, which we all know and love. Mahogany neck going down to the mahogany body. And I believe the Custom Shop models were an alder body, which is again what McCarty had envisioned for his original one. So again, these a little bit different on these coming out of the USA plant. There's our control cavity with our 1 volume, 1 tone control, and the 3-way toggle underneath there where your potentiometers would be. Extra wide strap buttons, but we never worry about that on this show because we are powered by Strap Tight on this show. Stop dropping your guitars. Stop altering your guitars. Throw on a Strap Tight and you are done. So a Strap Tight will go right over there and keep that even more secure, even though those are already extra wide strap buttons. But check out our friends at straptight.com. Okay, let's take a shot of the side here for a second. Okay, so there's that other extra wide strap button. Get some nice figuring here in the mahogany coming up the side, and I'm just loving this guitar. It's a great new addition. Not super new, this is being recorded in 2025, but great that Gibson finally pulled this drawing out and made some models of these in current times. Okay, so one more full case shot there of the Gibson Theodore. Again, originally conceived in 1957 by then Gibson President Ted McCarty, and the drawing was lost in time for almost 65 years. Originally put out finally in 2022 by Gibson Custom, and now we have available in antique natural, which this is vintage cherry and ebony, the Gibson USA standard version of the Theodore. Just love this guitar. Great addition to the Gibson line. Okay, so let's take this for a test drive and take this 57 Classic and Classic Plus and let her rip here and get some tones out of this awesome guitar. Here we go. friends. So thanks so much for checking in and joining me today for this review on the Gibson Theodore. Awesome guitar. Like I said, if there's 2 complaints I did have about this, and they're not really complaints, but just issues, it would be the access to the upper frets. I don't really think you get as much access as you do even with a Les Paul or an SG, certainly with this cutaway. And like we're talking about when we checked it out, if you go to bend up here, you can hit it, but I'll get some close-ups here. Your hand is at such a angle here from where this comes out that you just can't quite get up there enough to get under it. Now that's just how I play. Other players might find that's easy and no problem, but for me personally, that's a little bit rough getting up in there with that out. So I don't agree that this has just awesome accessibility to the upper range. I find a Les Paul is a little bit easier, actually quite a bit easier, and certainly an SG with the devil horns, because they kind of come out and it's not so much this part as it is what's happening right close to the neck, and that's just a little bit too full, for lack of a better term, to get up there. But like I said, it's not really a complaint. You can work with it, and kudos to Gibson. They were keeping Ted McCarty's original vision and drawing, and that's what he drew out, and they replicated that as close as they could to that drawing. So not complaining, I'm just pointing that out. And the one other thing would be on the standard model Gibson USA, which this is, like we're saying, you only have the 1 volume and 1 tone, which is kind of limited. I hope in the future maybe they'll put this out with separate controls for each pickup. I just love that, because that's how I play, especially live, where I'll, use 1 pickup lower, and then I always call this the 4-wheel drive switch, and hit that and have the other pickup full on, ready to go into your, lead or whatever you need. With 1 volume, it's very limiting. Even if you just have 1 tone, that's okay for me. You can work with that a lot better, but I love having those separate volume controls for each pickup. So that's a little bit limiting, but it's a lot like working with a junior, which we love on this show, and I've played tons of juniors. So again, you can make it work, and it's not really a complaint. I'm just kind of pointing that out. But on the 2022 Custom Shop models, you did have the full-on 2-volume, 2-tone controls, as was presented on the original Ted McCarty drawing. So if you really need one of those, try to seek out one of the Custom Shop models. But again, I'd love to see the USA plant put these out with the separate controls in the future, so we can hope that will happen. But please comment below, you guys. Thanks so much for checking in and joining me today. Like I said, go ahead and comment. Are you familiar with these guitars? Do you want one? Do you have one? What do you think of the body shape and all of this, everything we're talking about today? Please chime in and comment below on these awesome Theodore models. Find me on all social media at ToddBeebe Music, and we will see you all again. Thank you so much for joining me again today. Stay safe and love your dogs. Take care.